Welcome to hour number 2 on a Friday on hashtag Daily K with your host, Peter Bint. How much do you know about K-food? How much hanshik have you eaten?
We invite you into the world of Korean food, of course, including the history and culture of it. We'll introduce trendy foods and famous restaurants on
Dish of the Day
with Chef Ryan.
It is a Friday food day. I'm on a diet, Ryan. I don't know if I mentioned this. I've been doing quite well, actually. Like, first time in maybe 7 years that I've gone below 85 kilos.
Congratulations.
And I'm a bit confused because I have made efforts, but I've always made about this level of effort and never got these results. So I don't know what's changed. Am I getting older? Is my body changing, perhaps?
Maybe.
I don't know, but...
Usually it changes the other way.
I think so, right? You're meant to pile on the piles. But the weekend for me is still a kind of sacred time where I can pig out on some ice cream and some not so healthy food. So I'm looking forward to
Hey, you got to cheat sometimes. We ordered a pizza last night.
Oh, what did you get on your pizza?
We both just love pepperoni, jalapeno and pepperoni.
I'm not a fan of just pepperoni. Like when I was young, I think many kids love pepperoni, right? My kids love pepperoni. But I don't know, as I've gotten older, and this has been me, I thought, being less fussy, I just like the one, like the supreme kind of ones where everything's on there. Yeah, you're still like a pepperoni jalapeno guy.
I'm a sucker just for pepperoni, yeah. I like a lot of different things. So,
I'm sure you're...
But you can't cheat now. You can't be ordering pizza now. You're on a strict diet. What is this diet?
It's just I'm trying to be stricter about my fasting times.
Okay.
Remember we had that conversation a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was on air.
14, you going for 14 hours? 12 hours?
I'm trying to get to like 16.
Wow, impressive, man.
Well, no. Is it 16? No, it can't be 16. 16 would be...
14 is pretty solid,
Yeah,
I think.
I think
Maybe
14.
15 is amazing. 16 is... stupendous.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm snacking little bits here and there because the kids have always got like a packet of potato chips open and I might have one or two.
Yeah.
I used to try and have half the pack, so at least I'm cutting down there.
They do say if you don't have too many calories, you don't break the fast, right?
Right, yeah.
So coffee, I have my garlic and honey.
Lovely.
That might break the fast, though. I don't know.
Depends how much honey you're having, I suppose.
True.
And we were just talking, me and Ryan, in the studio about my trip last weekend. I don't think I've told the listeners too much about it. If you follow me on social media, you'll see I went to Pyeongsanpando on the west coast. There was some lovely seafood down there. I had some pajira kalguksu, which I think we talked about on the show not long ago.
Yeah.
And it was really fresh. It was actually a bit too fresh because there's still some sand in the little clams and stuff. And when you bite on that and that grating feeling on your teeth, but it still was absolutely delicious. And I must say, it was very spicy. Like they put in some, I think, 청양고추,
like we were
talked
talking
about
last week. Yeah.
And so for the kids, they were like drinking so much water while eating those
Well, that's
noodles.
good. They're out running around playing, I'm sure. You know, they need to drink a lot of water.
Absolutely. Did you have a good last week since we saw you last Friday? Did you do anything in the weekend or the week gone by?
Oh, man. Well, we've been busy getting that farm ready, you know. It is time. This is the magical time of year in Korea where almost everything can go in the ground right now.
Oh, nice.
The nighttime temperature is getting close to 10 degrees.
Okay.
Centigrade, of course.
Is that the magical kind of number for lots of plants?
Lots of plants, like the corn, the peppers, all the nightshades, really. A lot of beans, you know. So we've been waiting for this moment, and it looks like it'll be midweek next week that we'll leave the lower numbers. We're having a second spring right now. You'll see. After this rain, it's supposed to be like a second spring.
It's kind of cooled down this morning a lot, right? And then I looked ahead on my weather forecast, and recently it's been all above 20s, but I don't think we're going to get to above 20 again until sometime next week. So it's kind of nice. I like this weather. And today I've previewed the ingredient, not by saying it out loud, but by hinting. I think this is my favorite ingredient in the world, my favorite food.
No kidding?
Since I was a kid till now.
Well, this one got me more thinking about having this, like craving it, just from getting ready for this show today than other ingredients usually do.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about today?
It's the particular brand of, because I'm talking about crab in general, it's just my favorite.
Okay.
But we are talking today about Daege.
Daege, snow crab, or sometimes called bamboo crab, or technically speaking, it is the red snow crab. There are
snow crab.
about 4 or 5 different species of snow crab.
Ooh.
And we have the red variety here, which are so beautiful when they come straight out of that steamer box and onto your plate.
Absolutely. We've got a photo that I think is lined up for later, but why don't we show it now so that people can see what we're talking about? Because I never saw this crab in the UK. I'm sure you could have got it, but not in the supermarkets. It wasn't a common one to see.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, because it's good even after it's transported frozen.
Okay.
In the States, there are chains of restaurants that sell a lot of these, and really cheap.
Really?
They're on all you can eat buffets sometimes.
Wow.
And but don't imagine that when you think about the Daege here in Korea, because these are coming straight out of the sea. They're kept alive in tanks at the restaurants and get steamed up right away for you. And the quality, the flavor, that sweetness, it's so incredibly good.
That's what kind of stands out for the snow crab. Is it the sweetness that you get?
So it's
in the
firm and
lakes,
sweet.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, king crab is here as well.
Yes.
And they're the most expensive one.
Exactly.
But they're not my favorite.
They are more meaty, I would say.
They
right?
are.
So you get like big chunks of meat out the legs. And a lot of those come from Russia as well, right? I think. No?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Okay. I know the Daege definitely come out of these waters because I've seen the boats come in.
Yeah. The Daege is definitely the native one. I saw an article recently, a friend highlighted this, that apparently the king crab prices have plummeted because no one's buying from Russia. But Korea has been taking advantage of those prices. And so young people have been going out to eat king crab that they couldn't afford. So you can kind of understand their perspective. But at the same time, we don't want to be supporting the Russian economy, right?
Interesting. I'll have to check the prices. I'll report back next week on what I find.
Yeah.
But yeah, these aren't cheap, man. How many times do you get to have some Daege a year?
So when I go, I got to say, I am a bigger fan of the king crab. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, like I like the meatiness, the texture of it. So when we splash
have
out
them side by side, I don't think I've ever done that before.
Yeah, it's not common to have them both at the same time because they are still pretty pricey. So we'll go and have king crab. Maybe I'd say as a dish by itself once a year. Sometimes you'll go to a buffet, a nice buffet, and they'll have some of the ones that maybe been frozen.
Yeah.
But they're still good.
They are good. They're good. Yeah. Or even the hongdae, the really red one.
And they seem to be even smaller, right? Even thinner.
But they're good.
Yeah, they taste nice. Do you eat this regularly, Ryan?
I wish, man. Unless you go out to the East Coast, you're going to pay probably $150 even for lunch for 2.
Yes.
That's kind of the going rate. I mean, you're going to get lots of stuff. There's going to be soup and rice and all these side dishes, and it's amazing. But yeah, in the city, it's going to probably be about $150 for two folks.
Is there a season to get these?
You better believe it.
Okay.
We're talking they go after them as long as it's not too hot. So from September all the way around to June.
So only a couple of months they're not being fished in season.
But right now, February, March is the peak season. So now is when they have the festivals.
Yeah.
So, and I was trying to find out about I think they may be canceled due to COVID.
Sure.
But I'm sure they'll come back soon. They may even do a late one this year.
Yeah.
With the way things are going. But I went. Have you ever been to the Yeongdeok?
No, that's the big
festival?
one, right?
Oh, it's so cool, man. There's a lot of Daege out there. They even throw them in this giant pool, and you pay for like a fishing pole with like this weird hook on it
to catch them alive.
And it looks so dangerous because all these people are running around with these hooks, and some of them have never probably been fishing in their lives, and they just start throwing them in these pools and trying to get them because you pay like $20 for this little pole and hook. And you keep what you catch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you're getting a cheaper crab, maybe.
If you're lucky, if you can push your way to the front.
That's quite far from Seoul, though, getting down to Yeongdeok, right?
There's no direct highway. So nowadays, you go all the way out to the East Coast, and then there's a pretty quick highway down the East Coast that's opened up in the last 8 years or so.
Okay.
But you're still looking at what? Maybe 5 hours?
Yeah.
Probably 5 hours.
Yeah, and Korea's quite small, so that might seem a bit ridiculous. But like Ryan said, there's no straight route there, unfortunately.
Welcome to Arirang Radio.
If you are in Jeju,
88.7 in Jeju City.
88.1 in Seogwipo City.
101.9 in the Daejeong area.
Arirang Radio.
We're back for part 2, talking about the red snow crab today, or the Daege, as we call it in Korea, caught off the... So they caught off that eastern coast then?
Yes, deep waters. They really like to live just a little bit above freezing.
Oh, wow.
So, 200 meters or so down, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to be catching those with a little kind of crab baiter from the coast or anything like that.
No, you need long strings of baited traps like you see on some of those reality TV shows, off the coast of Alaska, that kind of thing.
Extreme jobs and
That's
stuff.
That's it.
Is that what Korean fishermen are kind of doing then?
They're baited traps, yes.
Wow.
They drop them down probably for quite a while, leave them down there, and then pull up almost every month of the year. Like we said, from September all the way around to June.
Yeah.
These are harvested from the deep waters there, the cold deep waters of the EC.
And we're catching a lot here in Korea.
It said, now I found an article that was from a few years back, and it's mentioned 40,000 tons.
Who's eating all of these crabs when me and you are struggling to afford them, Ryan?
I remember hearing when I first got here that so many of them were sold to Japan. That kept the price up.
I see.
So, but I don't think it's just that. I think a lot of them are consumed here too.
Yeah.
Imagine that though, if they're all about a kilo.
Okay.
And each one's about 10 years old, by the way.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that until I was reading up yesterday.
That's quite old.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So 10 years on the bottom of the sea, it gets to about a kilo, and then it sells for about $50 wholesale.
Well, that's brilliant if
So
you're pulling in a
40,000
lot.
tons, $50 each.
Just give me 1,000 tons of them. I'll be happy with that swag. We got lots of messages coming in here. Adrian saying, I'm so sad I can't eat those. I think I have an allergic reaction to them. Yeah, some people to like crustaceans and shellfish, right? They can't deal with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've got quite a few friends, yeah.
That's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's rough. YJ here writes in, Honggae, that's the bright red, slightly smaller version, is good too. Not as meaty as Daege, very true, or king crab. Yeah, and the Honggae is quite a bit smaller.
Yeah.
But it's so much cheaper.
Yeah.
When you're ordering these at a restaurant, it's particularly the kind of restaurants out on the EC, you can haggle with them and be like, how many of the Honggae are you going to throw in? If I get one Daege, how many Honggae do you throw in? So it becomes a bargaining tool.
I have seen the Honggae. They'll use like the legs sometimes, complete with like the shell on it, and they'll put it in the ramyeon, like at the end of the meal. And then you don't tasting it fully, but still, ramyeon's delicious, so who cares?
Absolutely.
Stacy from the States says, we've got seafood boil, and I absolutely love it. Is that the thing where you chuck it in the bag, perhaps?
Could be, but traditionally, you just got a giant pot. I used a kamasul, a Korean cauldron on the farm last November, the last event of the year, last year. Crab, crawfish, corn that we grew on the farm, okra. I mean, we just essentially did like a jambalaya.
Lovely. And then just put it all in the same pot and just boil it up.
Yeah, and then we got this giant like sieve or scoop, and carried them to the tables and dumped there's clams, everything on the table.
Brilliant.
Squeezed lemon over the top.
Yeah.
Shook some of our own like pepper seasoning, kind of like a Cajun blend, and parsley. And then folks just sat there on the farm and just devoured everything. It's one of our favorite annual. We got to get you down for that sometime.
I will
Peter.
100% be down. And that's like more of a later introduction to Korea to have it that style, right? Maybe from the bag or like that, right?
Right. I've seen that. There are a few specialty restaurants even a decade ago that were doing something like that. Now you see a few more.
Yeah, they seem quite popular. Steve says, my family also enjoys crabs, but we like the Dungeness variety. Dungeness. What is that?
Dungeness crabs are delicious.
I'm going to have a look
They're a bit
here.
more work.
Oh, I've never seen crabs like this, I don't think.
Oh, they're good, man.
They look a little scary, like the way they're looking at me. They've got sharp
Maybe
little
that's how I
claws.
got that scary name.
They look a little bit like the ones I was telling Ryan about in the break from the UK, which are maybe known as brown crabs or cancer crabs. Stone crabs. They're really hard, like a stone. You break them with a hammer in the UK. They kind of look similar to that. Do you just eat these just boiled as well? These
Absolutely,
Dungeness crabs?
steamed or boiled.
Okay.
And they can be difficult. Marilyn writes in, crab is so much work to eat. What's the key? Seems so little meat for the effort. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, the Daege that we're talking about today, the snow crab or the red snow crab, and the king crab, not a lot of work. And if you come to Korea, Peter, tell them what they do at your table.
They will like pre-break it for you, right?
Like a pro.
Yeah.
I mean, these ladies come out and they've got their scissors and they've got this little kind of like a crab fork or a lobster fork.
They got that like nutcracker thing to kind of break them as well. Yeah.
And like, I mean, I think I'm pretty good at it because I love eating crab and I think I know some good tricks. But when these ladies come over to your table and just everything is laid out perfectly, you don't have to do any work. It is the easiest way to eat crab.
It's almost like the shell is just a little plate for you, a little dish, and then you suck out the meat or pull it out. It's so easy. Yeah, that's what I love about that experience. That's probably why it costs a lot of the restaurants as well.
Could be.
Siska also saying, me and my mum, huge fans of crab, but you do need a lot of effort to eat it. Again, that's with the different types, not with today's. And you said you want to try snow crab, and you should try them from Indonesia, the different crabs, because we got so many different sauces. Yum, yum, yummy. Yeah, here in Korea, apart from like the raw crab, different preparations, which is a completely different dish, we don't really put them in many sauces and stuff, right?
You know, I guess because, all right, so we have the blue crabs, you know, the gokge, and that goes into the kanjanggaejang. Amazing. We'll have to talk about that. That's a whole nother show.
The soy sauce marinade.
Soy sauce marinated one. And then it'll go sometimes into soups.
Yeah.
But these that we're talking about, or the one we're talking about today in particular, the daege, it's so highly prized. It's eaten very unadulterated. It's just steamed and then served maybe with some soy sauce, maybe with some chojang, some red pepper vinegar paste.
Yeah.
I always bring butter though and lemon to restaurants, and they look at me like I'm funny, and then I'm like, well, here, try it.
Yeah, and then they like it, right? Because butter, you can get butter very easily nowadays, even some decent butter, but it's not been a long-held pantry ingredient in Korea. I guess that's why they don't, right?
Especially out on the East Coast.
So again, this is the photo of them. You see they're very sizable. That's why there's not too much work to get out a lot of meat. And then we're going to show you some pictures of the Daege village as well. Is that where the festival takes place?
Have you been down here?
Is this Yeongdeok?
This is right near Yeongdeok.
No, I've not been
Yeongdeok's
here.
actually a pretty big town, but
Okay.
but this is the crab village, right? So it's like this cove, and all around the cove are these restaurants. So you can kind of see in the picture the buildings sticking out over the water.
Oh, they're restaurants.
Each little section, that's places to sit for a different restaurant.
Oh, nice.
And you can walk down that street and they will be haggling, or they'll be trying to lure you into the restaurant, and you can play them off against each other. And try to get the best deal.
Wow. That giant crab on the building, right? You might think that's amazing. That must only be here in the Daege village. But you see it at certain crab restaurants in Seoul as well. You'll see just a random giant crab on a building.
Yeah. Somebody's making giant crabs for a living.
Yeah, and you think like King Kong or something like that. My kids used to love spotting these, but they just become the norm. And
I love it.
Yeah, that's the picture that you need to keep in your mind. That's what they look like. Obviously, not that big.
When my family visited us, my parents came to Korea, my sister, we drove right through here and went down this, and we found a restaurant that had been owned by the same family for 3 generations.
Wow.
And so we chose that because we were family together, and we had a feast right there in that little village.
Brilliant.
And the festival's done nearby, kind of in a big seaside park, so that they have more space, you know.
Okay. And we've got other pictures of, I think, the Daege statue. Wow. Is this how highly prized it is down there? That's a modern kind of statue, isn't it? That's so odd.
So I suppose, if your main industry in your village is this crab, then it makes sense to put, taxpayer dollars towards things like this where tourists stop and take pictures and put your place on the map for that ingredient, and support those local businesses.
How to describe this to just people listening? It's this silver statue of a torso coming out of the ground, which is huge. It's like 7 times taller than a person, just the torso with the arms upheld. Yeah, like holding the crab as an offering to the gods, which the crab itself is gold as well here. It looks like kind of Ultron from the Avengers holding up this crab. Wow, that's brilliant, isn't it?
Don't you know that if the sun catches that statue just right and you're driving by, you're blinded?
It does look like that would very much happen, doesn't it? And then the last picture here is from the air. So this is the cove that goes out into the sea?
Exactly. So especially on the near side, but really all of it around is just Daege, 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 Daege. And there's a little bridge that you could take over into it. Nice. And there's another one of those giant crabs over the bridge.
Fantastic. It's all about the crabs if you're going down to Yeongdeok. When you hear that word Yeongdeok, all Koreans just think of crab, right? This Daege. That's just how it's associated. Lots of you sending in messages. Princess Mama Meg from the States says, I'm not a fan of crab unless it's imitation crab with my sushi. And this is my guilty pleasure, and it doesn't make any sense because I love crab, like real crab. Imitation crab on a sushi, like a nigiri kind of thing, one of my favorites.
That's it, I'm out of here.
Seriously, that and the egg as well. The real cheap sweet egg. I love that. I do love the expensive cuts of tuna as well, but those are my guilty pleasure.
When I was a child, I loved that imitation crab.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's not bad. Well,
I absolutely love it.
All right, as a chef and a culinary expert, I'm sure you could tell us that it's not good for you. It's not great ingredients.
No, I'm not going to burst your bubble, Peter. If something is made you take a fish and you make it look and taste like a crab.
Yeah. Is that what it's from? It's no crab at all.
Yeah, it was done from pollock and cod, I believe.
Oh my goodness, really? Yeah, in Korea it's very popular, especially for kids, right? We call it crammy here, I think is the name. And my wife, she hasn't done it for ages. I'm going to ask her, actually. She'll make those little sushi things at home, or we call them chobabs, and they taste great with a bit of seaweed as well. I'm on board. It's not as good as Daege, of course.
True, very true, very true. And today we're talking about Daege. Siska's talking about the steamed crab over there for her, and they just have it with sambal jahi. Am I saying that right, jahi? Ginger and chili.
Oh, we don't usually have it with ginger here, right?
No,
Crabs,
we don't.
yeah.
We don't. But definitely some chili sometimes. I want to try that stuff. And then Adrian writes, an only advantage of serving it with spice is that you don't get to feel the fishy stuff.
I suppose.
Don't you know that's where the Mayuntang, the crabs that go into the Mayuntang are probably the ones that got thrown in the freezer because they died in the tank.
Oh dear, they're a little older as well, perhaps.
If you're in a restaurant,
you got to make use
of it. And you paid so much money for these things. Then of course, throw it in the freezer, make something else out of it,
and then put them in the spicy broth where they'll have that flavor masked by everything else. Denny is saying, our host of the rest stop, says if you haven't had crab fried rice served in the head, the carapace of a king crab, you don't know what you're missing.
So true.
That's a whole other thing that we got to talk about, I suppose. Right?
I got a story for you, man.
Okay.
So just north of Ulchin, in this little fishing village, that's where I always go for my Daege. It's like a pro tip. Less tourists there fighting over, the high prices, yada, yada. So I can haggle. And I've been going to the same restaurant for more than 10 years.
Nice.
And then sometimes they pull at the same time of year that I'm there. They'll be catching the uni, the songe, the sea urchin roe, well, it's not actually roe, but anyway. And I can't believe it. You could get a kilo of uni fresh from the sea, just taken, spooned out of the urchins into a kilo box. A kilo for $35, man.
That's
for
so
$35.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because I'm buying it straight from the fishermen on the pier. I took it to the Daege restaurant, and when she goes, after you eat most of your Daege, they'll say, "Hey, do you want the bokkeumbap?" Or you just kind of raise your hand and say, "Hey, bokkeumbap, please." And And I was like, hey, do you mind putting some of these songe, the urchin, in my bokkeumbap?
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. Wow. Imagine having that much uni to play with. Like that's in the stir fry, and then they stuff it in the head of the crab, and they've got some kim, some laver in there.
Yes.
You know, there's a little toasted sesame oil.
Yes.
Some people throw in other things, you know, but comes back to the table. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, incredible.
I didn't used to like any other part of the crab, you know, the stuff that comes out the head, all those juices, the kind of greeny brown looking stuff, but when you mix that with the rice and then fry it up, it's so good. And the songe, the sea urchin, is quite a premium ingredient even here. That's such an amazing price, right?
I still every time I'm down in that little village, I'm checking around and trying to find it, but you really just got to get lucky and be there when they're catching them.
Nice. And we've got a short clip here from you, Ryan, right? This video.
That's
what is
from
this?
my market in Suwon.
Oh, nice. This isn't on the coast. This is down south of Seoul in Suwon. They're just transporting the daeges, are they?
Yeah, so
Wow.
if you think each one of those wholesale is at least $50, yeah, probably more.
Yeah.
And then how much is in there? Maybe like $3 grand, $4 grand worth of crab and just that little dolly right there.
It is a lot, isn't it? And like we said, they're often going to be in the tanks outside the restaurants. In many of the fish markets like Norangjin, they'll be alive in the tanks and you get to choose yours. They'll weigh it there and stuff, right?
Yeah, and then you can, of course, take it home. But what most people do is they carry it up to a restaurant. That's so cool here. Sometimes I take it for granted now. I've been here so long, but how neat is that? You can pick it out from the market downstairs and then go up to a restaurant and not pay again for the crab. You're paying a small fee to have them prepare it for you.
Yeah, an extra like per person fee or something, and they'll do some table settings with some condiments and some maybe salad leaves and side dishes.
All kinds of stuff, even throw in the soup at the end.
Yeah. It's brilliant. Norangjin has been revamped in the past 5 years or something into the new building, and it's so nice, the facilities, if you go upstairs as well. We have this picture. This is what you're talking about, Ryan, right?
That's the plan.
How it comes out to you, right?
Right. You're not having to do any work at all. Those are all cracked and ready to just, I mean, maybe on some of the little legs you have to do a little bit of work, but all the main meat, the claws are cracked. It's so easy. And then that head part with all that kind of liquor in there, the
goo.
that you send back to the kitchen when you're ready, usually towards the end of your meal. And then they put the rice and the toasted sesame oil, and if you're lucky, some uni in there too.
So this is obviously common in Korean. This is how I've enjoyed this. And like I said, we didn't have this crab in the UK. But if you get bigger crabs in like the US, are you having to do a lot of work? Are you having to do everything if you're eating it at a restaurant even?
They're probably cracked.
Okay.
But then they also give you crackers and long fork things so you can do the rest of your work yourself.
Because with these, like Ryan said, they're often like cracked in a way where you just need to split it open with your hands, right? And then it's just like, ta-jan, ta-da, here's the meat for you.
I've in some of the restaurants, and I didn't even ask for it, they'll come over to the table while you're eating and just kind of feed you the whole time. They're just like, here, take this one. Here, you take that one. Here, you take this one.
Yeah.
Until it's gone.
That's the great thing about many Korean restaurants, even some of the meat restaurants where they're cooking it for you, they'll put the little pieces on everyone's dish for you to eat.
That's it.
You just need to get it to your mouth. And that's it. It's so amazing, isn't it? We do have some photos here from listeners. I wonder if we can show one or two maybe from Tropic Girl K. She has said, in the UK, they call them dressed if the meat has been removed and seasoned. And this is some of the best I had in England.
Wow.
That looks like a roast dinner, I think. We've got some other photos, I think, of some sandwiches where it is in from UK. But you're now getting me very homesick with the roast dinner with gravy and whatnot. Goodness gracious. Ryan, thank you for coming in for Daege. Although my bank account's not going to thank you because I really need to try some now.
Me too. I think, I'm going to Garak right after this. I might have to buy a crab, take it to the farm, and steam it.
Oh, sounds good. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next Friday. You can listen to Dish of the Day with Chef Ryan every Friday at 10 a.m. KST on #DailyK.